For folks who are here joining, please log into the community Google Docs. I'm going to drop in the link one more time. I think most of you have been to this meeting before. What we will do is, if you are new to this call, please either raise your hand or do a quick intro. Just tell where you're from and which company, and that would help us you know know who you are. Amit, I think you're new to
I
this
can,
community.
yeah.
Please go ahead. Yeah.
Hey, sure, Nash. This is Amit Shekhar. I work with Capital One. I'm a colleague of Luke.
Awesome.
So yeah, and my background is in ML, ML engineering. So yeah, that's about me.
Awesome. Great. Good to have you here, Amit.
Thanks, sure.
By any chance, of either one of you, Luke or Amit, are you based in Dallas area? Just curious.
I am in Dallas.
Okay. Yeah.
Luke is
And
not.
we have
Luke is
Capital
in
One has a
Richmond.
big presence here.
Yeah.
Notice the Cowboys material behind you. So I
Yeah,
wonder if
yeah,
you're there.
yeah. I'm in Allen, Texas, so yeah,
Okay.
not too far from where the office is. So. Luke, were you in Austin? I forget.
No, I'm actually in Richmond,
Okay,
but we have
Richmond.
a big Capital One campus in Plano, so
Yep.
I'm there fairly frequently.
Yeah. I think I drive by that very frequently.
I'm also in Allen, Srinivas.
Oh, you
It
are?
looks like,
Okay.
yeah, it looks like Texas.
Yeah,
Most of
we
us.
need to do a meetup here, a canoe local meetup.
Okay.
I'm also local, Dallas.
Yeah. So let's get together. Maybe we should just arrange just a local meetup for canoe. Maybe this is a good opportunity to even help each other bring up stuff. That would be cool. Yeah, I think when that would be good, Luke, when you're in town. Send us a shout out. We could even do this community meeting in person. I can find a space in either in Cisco office in Richardson, or we can come to Capital One, whichever works. Great to see all of you. I think what we'll do is do a quick updates on the project. We've made some significant progress over the weeks. Pardon me. There'll be a few demos. I think the EFON has done some additional work to do distributed tracing since we last talked. Langfuse team dropped in a note for a distributed tracing demo. I think that's working out pretty well. So we'll queue that up towards the end of the session. So for folks who haven't caught up with Canoe before, there is this thing called reference implementation for IDP Builder. If you're familiar with it, I won't bore you on that. What we thought about this was overall I'm giving you some rough ideas and we'll go into the project meeting. So our solution architecture always had, Keycloak as a mechanism to authenticate users and authorize, and it's an opinionated view. Of course, you can bring your IDP. What we were thinking is Backstage is our conduit to the chatbot, agentic chatbot, and IDP Builder has all of these already built in. Then we have the Agent Forge plugin that we open sourced. We had this thought process this week to hey, how about we plug in the IDP Agent Forge plugin into IDP Builder, launch all these agents with IDP Builder in a kind cluster or EKS reference. That's what we were doing internally for productionizing. So I think we have very early hacky notion of that with IDP Builder. We'll do a quick demo of that. We'll target a demo. So I think Sunny showed a demo of EKS last week. We'll just do a refresher how we're using EKS to deploy these agent take along with Backstage and the Agent Forge plugin. Evaluation demo. I think for folks who haven't seen the GraphRag demo, Shubham, it would be good to refresh the GraphRag demo as well. But before we do those, and we'll do that in 15 minutes. Do a quick update on the project progress, and then open for Q&A, and then go into demos. Are there any other specific topics you want to bring up? And I think there was one around vulnerability assessment use case. We can touch on that and the incident management. I actually added in the project page something that another AWS community member is working on around vulnerability assessment. We can talk about that. So let me bring up, without further ado, the project page. It should be under.
Just a quick question on the
Yes.
Canoe aspect of integration with IDP Builder. So I
Yeah.
have seen a demo of IDP Builder in the past, and typically there is a backstage front end, and there are templates, project templates, and typically we showcase how to use those templates to build and deploy applications using IDP Builder. I was
Yeah.
curious if in this case agents would be deployed on IDP Builder. Will there be a notion of a template, like an agent template, and then using that template to build these 5 or 6 agents in IDP Builder, or this will be like a separate pipeline for the time being till there is a notion of agent template in Backstage? I was curious, like what's the
Yeah.
thought process
So
there?
what I mean, this is very, very rough. This week's thought process, Sunny and I, we were discussing as we were trying to do internal production deployment. So as you mentioned, we're starting from this reference implementation stack. So this reference stack in IDP Builder basically brings up a bunch of things, right? Keycloak, there is external
Yeah.
secrets, which we use internally as well. Backstage. What we were thinking is, if that backstage that we have, if we can drop in the plugin, like there is the templating of that plugin, we can drop the Agent Forge plugin, which will in fact use Keycloak as the JWT token, because the way the plugin is written, it takes the identity provider token and it sends it to the agents for authentication. And then our thought process was we will basically implement another stack for AI platform engineering, another reference stack. So a user will install the reference implementation, and then we'll do another add-on AI platform engineering. If I understood your question, and pardon me if I'm saying the wrong thing, but the agents, we package them, they're all like Docker containers, and there is a Helm chart. So we will just install Helm charts of those agents, and that's how we are doing it internally, and along with those secrets that come with it. So did I answer your question, Gaurav?
Yeah, I think I understood. I understood basically through this stack and reference implementation, all these agents will be already stood up on a kind of Kubernetes EKS cluster, whichever is the target environment.
Yeah. I mean, if since we are talking about it, I'll just go ahead and show you. So this is, think of this as very raw, hacky way. So this is the IDP Builder that we started from reference implementation. Then we launched these containers through Argo CD application, app of apps. And if you see that, let me go here. So this is the app of apps, part of that Argo like IDP Builder. Some of them are still limping along and coming up, right? So it's slow because I'm running my Ubuntu here. But that's the notion. You bring up the reference app, bring up all the downstream containers that are agent containers, along with the related secrets for them, the service accounts, LLM providers, and the reference Backstage app. This is and I was still in the middle of debugging. I couldn't get it to work, but we will have it polished for next week. Even the styling is a little weird. The icon is showing up on the left side, but once you click the icon, this is the open source icon, open source plugin we already published. So you can ask your agent questions. What can you do? And this will talk to the agent. Right now, it cannot communicate with the the internal like agent that's already running. You just have to wire it up. But the idea is that you could just run the reference stack, AI platform engineering stack, and then you have the whole thing coming up like this. And that's a quick way to validate and get all your secrets. And then folks can customize it for their EKS deployments. And we can talk about EKS in the later demo.
Got it. No, thank you. Thank you for detailed answer. Thank you.
Yeah, I think this should be like one of our initial reference implementations that we can write a tutorial and say, hey, if someone is playing with this, go use this IDP builder stack and you'll get the whole AI platform engineering along with Backstage and yeah, Keycloak, everything else.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Do you, Luke, you had a comment there. Anything anyone wants to add? Luke, any questions?
No, I think that idea of templates for agents really resonated with us as we want to have like we were building agents across the company, some of them for this domain, but of course in our business domains as well. And to scaffold out like a compliant agent that has the right integrations would be pretty amazing for our use cases. So if that's something that makes it into the backlog, I'm happy to help there.
Yeah, let's add it as we speak. So why don't we take a look at the board, and then I think we can go ahead and add the agent templates as an item. Let's go ahead. Let's put deployment IDP builder agent. Okay, it came up. We put the placeholder here, and then we can fill this in as we see this come through. So in the status board, it's a busy picture, but where we are seeing progress is GraphRag. This is currently in the process of being integrated into the main AI platform engineering repo. Shubham can talk about a little bit about the progress on that in 10 minutes. There is some community outreach. Hasid, do you want to cover this real quick? What you want to do with the community outreach? There are a few conferences we submitted. We do want to get like some meetups and start to get a few more folks start using it. So we can get more.
Yeah, I mean, main thing is at a very high level, objective is to drive adoption, and you know that's kind of what we are trying to measure the success around this. So we are obviously couple of things we want to do. Now you know with the IDP builder EKS setup, you have a way for people to kind of like bring something up. So we want to do a workshop. Prepare like a workshop, step-by-step workshop guide, and that we can repeat in few forums. That'll kind of like help with adoption. So that's one. And then the other thing is to also, on the back of that, encourage hackathons type of activities. So we want to kind of like do that in few forums. We're kind of trying to do that, you know, externally and also even internally we are trying to do it because yeah, that's generally a challenge with adoption, right? And so
Yeah, I'll take a note here. So I think there was a topic about Texas meetup. Maybe there is enough critical mass we could do like a local hackathons like this.
Yeah.
But we should workshops and hackathons. That would be a good idea.
Yeah. And happy to kind of like, given that's kind of like the intention, happy to like, you know, if anybody has like good ideas or like a forum type of thing, we can also do like you know, canoe members or anybody who's in this community who's interested. You know, we can kind of you know, even virtually, you know, take 2-3 hours kind of go through and then get more people, you know, aware of things and involved. So
yeah, sounds good.
Yeah,
Thank you,
that's
Hasid.
awesome. Thank you so much, Atish. So what conferences, sorry, did I miss that? Which conferences are already accepted?
Uh,
Yeah.
there's a reinvent slot, so that's one. I have a couple things happening in London, so because I'm local and whatnot. So that, yeah, and we are just here, and then couple with universities, and then yeah, like I mean, keeping an eye out for anything else. So anybody you guys, and Argo as well, right? Shri,
Yeah, we have
Argo
2
CD,
talks submitted, for
yeah,
one for KubeCon, one for Argo
and
City.
yeah,
We have not heard about those.
correct.
I think local community meetups would be a good one. If you all are, if you have contacts in that, or if you're organizing one in your companies, it could also be worthwhile for us to come in there and talk about these. But it has to be relevant to this topic. But that's something for us to consider as well.
Yeah, I am working on some hackathons and working with UCs and stuff, like I'm gathering at data gathering phase right now. Yeah, but so we can discuss later on this.
Okay. Yeah, for folks who haven't met Sujata, so she is coordinating a lot of our OSS stuff and Outshift Cisco. So yeah, thank you, Sujata. So yeah, let's connect offline and see if we can get some of that community engagement. So just going over what's happening with some of the, so there is a RAG agent that's already in mainline branch. Rehan, who is working on it, it's not still in a structured way where you can like have a full-fledged microservice that you can write a fast API to index. And so it's I think there is some more enhancements that are still being worked on. So potentially this will be available for later part of the release. One of the questions that came up, and I just want to queue this up once we finish the project roadmap. Chatting with Pankaj, who was unable to join, we talked about 001 release, but his advice was to kind of avoid tagged releases and just keep stable and release versions of the software, because this is really a reference implementation. We're not giving the software with versioning. It could get tricky with like security update and stuff like that. Does anyone have any concerns if we just stick with stable and release tags and not do version releases? Any strong opinions on that?
I mean, one thing is like, if people adopt this and kind of like roll it out to production, then you're gonna have like systems that are very diversely configured, right? And there may be like different levels of appetite of validation and whatnot. I'm not saying like it's still, how to say, like you still want to move fast, but not necessarily at the same pace, right? Like it's similar to not everybody upgrades Kubernetes at the same time, right? Like so we probably, I mean, we will, it's we are going to have that level of complexity and variability. So question is like right now, if we just stick to stable, that's okay. But I think it's kind of unavoidable at some point. We'll need that. So, but the question is like, I'm okay either way, right? We could depending on what other, and to be honest, fun enough, it's whoever is the first other party who run into issues would need to bring this up as a concern. So, and we can do this till then. That's fine. Anybody else?
I would echo the same. I think it's fine to get started with until it becomes a problem with the the amount of releases, etc. With the refactor, we think.
Yeah, I think that'll keep at least some of the momentum going. I think doing release planning, I think we're not at a place where we know enough to say, okay, this goes into this release and also like our collective cadence hasn't been determined. So until such a time we can start tagging them, it does become a problem when we have to maintain security patches, and then you have to really think about commitment. And so maybe avoid until we have to get there. We, as it is, we're starting to deploy this into our production. So as we see encountered things, we will run into that sooner than later. But anyway, we should have a discussion page on this and noodle on this, sleep over it, and come back and see. This still has some more time. I will, speaking of that, add a topic here for release strategy. OSS release, and we're really coming up on time, so I will make sure that we will quickly go over the status board and then go to community Q&A, and then we'll go jump into demos. So just to reiterate, yeah, a lot of work happening to consolidate all the mono repos. They have already all been collapsed into the main repo. So if anyone is looking at the documentation, updates have been made. There was some community input into cleaning up the docs, putting everything under docs. I think Nail, thanks to his feedback, there is a blog page where we can add, different things, and also some technical reference. And if folks can contribute to that, that would be great. Anything we're doing, agent templates and other things, IDP builder. Some notions around agents and MCP servers are coming here. A lot of placeholders still, but these things are getting populated. So if as folks use it, please continue to contribute. Yep, there is stuff for quick start guides, local development, and if you're running in Docker Compose, that's all available to use. And once the IDP builder is there, we'll add this as the first step to try it out. EKS also exists, how to configure EKS and secrets. Check it out. Yeah, that information exists, and if anything is out of place, let folks know, and use the Slack channel to communicate on the project. And we need to do a little bit more thorough job on adding more good first issues and help wanted. But if you see something that's in the backlog and if you'd like to work on it, feel free to jump in to say, hey, I would like to contribute to these things. I won't go into necessarily every one of these. Feel free to take a look, and as we see stable smoke tests, that's where we are at. We don't have a fully automated regression yet. We're tagging them as stable, and as we internally also consume this live in production, we'll get more at release strategy for this. I'll pause there, and I think we'll go into the community Q&A. First one, I think the topic I see is, I think I may have copied notes from last week. Let me erase them and see if there are actually any Q&A. And I also want to bring up the CyberGen agent. Are there any specific Q&A for today, the community?
I just have a general question. Sorry, joining first time. I just looked at the calendar and I see two meetings at this time. This is one, and the other one is Knosig Agentic AI. So are these two at the same time, or are these two connected?
It's the
You got
same
it, yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Must be a old invite or something.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to probably go to the Google Calendar, maybe as it and see if we have the old one to remove it. So
Yeah.
originally we had one with Google Meet. I think
Mhm.
we didn't have a enterprise account. We couldn't record it. There was some confusion there. So we switched to WebEx because we could record it and basically post it back. So that was the confusion. Apologize.
No worries. So
Yeah, WebEx is the right meeting, and we'll clean it up. Since you brought up the vulnerability management last week, Luke, this is another community member from AWS who wrote this agent. It was an interesting one to integrate to the platform engineering. I've only scanned through this. I haven't looked at it carefully. But Aaron, who works in a different agent community, he posted this, and I have some. I wanted to take a look at this and see if we can integrate this into the AI platform engineer. But just wanted
Yeah,
to highlight this. Yeah,
I'd be very interested. I don't know if that's in the notes to take a look at that. We currently working on some POCs on our side
yeah.
as well. So
There is a issue here. If you spend
okay,
some
I see.
time,
Okay.
or we can regroup next time we connect. I also wanted to run it and try it out, but let's exchange notes when you're able to try it.
That's good.
What will happen in this space is we won't have enough bandwidth to write all the agents. There'll be a lot of third-party OSS, very strong agents that are out there. I think the approach, if we take a platform approach to this, where we build some that we know of, and we can also integrate other agents through containers and through discovery service. How do we discover them, add them to an agent directory or MCP directory? That would be probably the approach that would serve us well in the community. Awesome, thank you. Before we jump into like quick showcases and demos, any other community questions? I think the demos can open up some questions on what's happening in the space. I'll pause for 30 seconds to see if there are any questions. If not, Ifan, I'm going to queue you up for a demo. Take your time, and if you can take 20-30 seconds to start the demo. Shubham, are you at a good place to demo GraphRag?
Yeah, I can do a refresher demo. I haven't made
Yeah.
much progress since last time, but happy to
Yeah,
do
yeah,
that.
refresher is good. I think some of the new folks haven't seen the GraphRag. And if time permits, we'll show the EKS, how the agents are run with EKS. It will be very similar to what we were talking about, the kind of IDP builder. So, yep, whenever you're ready, Ifan, if you can talk about distributed tracing and evaluation.
All right. Wait a second. So hi everyone, I'm Ifan. I'm recently working on the distributed tracing of the AI platform engineering trouble. So the current problem is that we make a different design from our previous Jarvis agent. So we put each agent into a separate container. That means we can't really use our previous tracing setup. And the problem is that we can't really somehow connect those traces together. So let's just take a recap of the multi-agent structure here. So at the top we have the platform engineering supervisor agent, and this agent hands off tasks to specialized sub-agents like GitHub and Jira and Confluence. And there's a 8-way connection too to connect them together. So without the proper tracing, there issues like operating becoming a black box, like getting context, context getting lost between different agents and the difficulty in accessing agent performance. So with the distributed tracing, which will help us tackle this problem by giving us a clear visibility from start to finish, maintaining the context between different agent interactions, and providing a way to evaluate this agent performance. And that's the most important part. So to achieve this problem, we have some goals. We have to use a unified so we have to get a unified trace context, which ensures we have one consistent trace ID that all agents recognize and use. We also prioritize like zero framework interference, meaning we only capture clean, useful traces through length views. And automatic propagation makes sure our trace context moves seamlessly from one agent to another. And we have to capture the detailed performance and the quality data through our AI agent evaluation setup. Okay, let's dive into how this thing actually works. When the user make a request, the platform engineer generates a unique trace ID here. And the trace ID is embedded into the communication between agents through our A2A tools. And each sub-agent like GitHub and Jira then use this ID when logging their activities to our length views, which includes all of the structures like that. Let's just see an example workflow. When the user sends a request to the supervisor agent, and the supervisor creates a trace ID and create a parent span in length views, and it sends a request along with the trace ID in the relevant sub-agent via the A2A framework. Then the sub-agent pick up the trace ID, logs its own activity, completes the task, and sends back to the response. And then the supervisor wraps things up by closing the parent span and respond back to the user. All right, so let me just show an example trace here.
Yifan, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
So if these agents are invoking tools, does the trace ID also get propagated to tools like MCP servers, or this is primarily to understand the activity between agents? I'm just curious, like how far this trace ID goes. Does it go till the MCP server level or just the agent level? Just curious.
So the trace ID was actually used to connect the main agent, the supervisor agent to the sub agent. And
Okay.
during the trace of the sub agent, you can see the actually the MCP2 calls there. It's also recorded by the line graph.
Got it.
Sorry.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, please continue. Whenever you show the demo, then we can see all the correlation.
Yeah, wait a second. Let me just grab the CI there. So let me use the GitHub repo for example. So show me my recent commits of GitHub. Let's just ask a really general question. Yeah, it doesn't seem to get any responsible feedback, but just for the demo, I'll just show the trace first. So you can see here the traces was actually combined into one. We got like the supervisor agent and the GitHub agent trace. And for the question that's does it involve any tool calls? I mean, in the GitHub agents it's the tool calls is actually recorded here, and it shows failed because it doesn't actually get the commits here. So basically, we use the trace ID to combine the two traces into single one, and in that case, we can do this evaluations easier.
And it's especially if you have even more than one sub-agent, if you have n number of sub-agent calls, then having this type of view is super useful, especially both evaluation like trajectory, match, and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I agreed. I'm just curious, like, is there a possibility of having, let's say, GitHub agent nested inside supervisor agent to give that hierarchical view? I mean, if it is not possible, great, but that's fine. But I was curious, like, from visualization perspective, is there any possibility of seeing like supervisor agent? Okay, yeah, it internally shows it inside it. Okay.
Actually,
Yeah,
the connections. Sorry. So what I was thinking why it could be outside because since it is just connecting to that and accessing the information, but it itself GitHub is a separate agent.
Yeah, exactly. So they're
Okay.
completely. I think that's how the Lang Fuse represents it. So
Okay.
they actually, that's the feature they. So the robot icon is really a Lang graph one agent. Like if it strands, it'll probably show them, like basically these are different frameworks potentially. and maybe we can talk to them to see if there is a way to correlate. In a later version of the, so what the GitHub agent you saw inside supervisor, we cleaned up that code. Originally we had a React agent. I think in the latest version of the code, Ifan, I changed it to a tool call rather than an agent. But the flow is the supervisor gets the request, it'll send it to LLM reason and say, okay, I need to send it to a remote agent. And the remote agent is a black box. But the good thing is we're tracing that remote agent in the same trace ID. Sorry, please continue, Tim.
during the last 1.5 months, I'm always trying like figure out a way to combine the line graph together, but it seems kind of difficult because they are like running in two different containers. So that's I mean that's probably the best way I got. Let's move on to some of the technical details. So the when I store the the trace ID, I use the context variable. So that means each agent container runs independently using the context paths to manage their trace IDs. And there's another problem with the 8-way noise reduction. Since the 8-way actually use the OTel trace decorator, which means that if we wanted to connect the collect the traces using LangFuse, it will generate a lot of like 8-way noise. So I solved this problem by using the monkey patch method. That is the thing that we should discuss with today, because I think there should be a better way of doing it. So I just replace all the I just replace all the code related to the tracing. But basically like turning off the built-in telemetry by replacing it with a no operation function. So that's the thing. That's the way that I did. Are there any questions related to that?
I may suggest Ifan to open an issue in LangFuse to see if they maybe provide your research and the monkey patch and say ask or if you open an issue and ask the folks in our SIG space who are already added and see if this is the best way to do A2A. I'm sure it has to be a common problem, right? Because A2A by nature is doing distributed agents. So I would probably ask LangFuse, is it unique to LangFuse or is this a general A2A trace problem?
I mean, it's a general 8-way trace problem because the collector have to they want to connect to traces, right? So, but the 8-way protocol itself has a way of tracing. So when we integrate that into when we integrate them together, there have to be traces related to 8-way. But
Yeah.
the
Let me
thing is
take
that
back. Maybe we should open an issue on A2A SDK itself. What if we open an issue on SDK and describe this problem? Once we commit this docs, this is really awesome docs. If we can show them this is what we had to do to get it to work with LangFuse. Maybe we can even like suggest we monkey patch in there, or not monkey patch, fix it properly in their SDK, in the A2A SDK. Why don't we open an issue in A2A SDK itself and provide this research and say, hey, this is what we're running into, and see if they have any suggestions.
All right, I'll try to create a issue there.
Yeah. Does the community have any other suggestions? I think this is one thing we are running into, is the A2A trace noise. Gaurav or others, have you run into this?
No, Shri, I haven't tried this. So, but I plan to try out A2A and LangFuse integration in an example scenario for myself and see how this works out.
Okay.
And if I encounter same thing, then I will just +1 to the issue.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, let's do the A2A issue. I think Ifan, I can follow up with you on how we can do that. I think we should get this into the docs and show them what research we have done. That also can, in some way, can also provide visibility there. In the interest of time, let's take 1 or 2 minutes for any questions. Does this make sense to folks? And this is, by the way, a lot of great work by Ifan to put all of this together, both in documentation and actually getting this distributed tracing working.
No, I think this looks great. Again, I would like to experiment. I mean, play with it once once this code is merged or available through our AI platform engineering repo.
Yeah, great. Amit, please go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing that this is great work. Really liked it. Thank you very much, Ifan, for showing the way here. I haven't personally explored yet with A2A. We are working on that one. So the integration of LangFuse for tracing would be very helpful, because it will at least give a clear picture of what is the agent doing. So yeah, I would look into it in detail, but thank you. Thanks for sharing.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll get that code merged soon. I think there is some cleanup we need to do to enable all the agents that will be available soon in a couple of days. If there are no other questions, Shubham, if you can do a refresher on GraphRag and integrations and how folks can potentially use it once the container is available, that would be great.
Yeah, let me share my screen. Cool. Let me know if you can see my screen, because I can't tell. Okay, excellent. So what we wanted to do was 2 things. One is enhance the AI platform engineer with a GraphRag. So instead of using just usual vector DB and RAG systems, we wanted to hook it to a graph database and to RAG with that. And that's what we were doing initially. And then we soon realized that the real problem is generating the graph itself and defining the relations. So what we have is an attempt at both generating the graph as well as using it for RAG purposes. And what we noticed is that the documents, especially for DevOps use cases, that they mention a lot of foreign keys. So for example, in an ingress, Kubernetes ingress document or object, like the namespace refers to the namespace document, or the host in the rule spec, points to a hosted zone, right? And so what we wanted to do was exploit this pattern to and use LLMs to generate the relations in the graph database. So what we are doing is basically we look at all the documents and all the proper key values in the document, and we do a fuzzy search for all of them to find what are the other similar documents, and then we do we kind of narrow it down to, let's say, 10 documents. Then we do a more deeper search, finding each key value within a document, comparing it to the other key values in other documents, and we then aggregate all these metrics and heuristics into one sort of into one object, and then get the LLM to evaluate, have the final say essentially that, hey, is this pattern an actual relation, or is this just a a false positive, right? And so the LLM then provides both whether it's a relation or not, as a with the confidence level, as well as the name of the relation and justification and whatnot. So we have this sort of working, and so to give you a full sort of architecture of how this works, we have a bunch of clients that pull in data from different systems, and then we have a heuristics collector that basically processes all the entities in the graph database, and then LLM slowly picks one by one the heuristics, evaluates them, and then if it's a relation, it updates the graph with the relation. And then we also have a question and answer agent, which basically can query the database and has tools available to traverse the graph. So with that, I'll move on to the demo. So all of this code is available, by the way, which you can check out. I'm just going to use the one that's upstream. So I'm gonna, it's just a Docker Compose up, and that should bring up everything that's needed along with dummy data. So I'll just wait for it to be up and running. Oh, I think that should be up and running now. And it should, I should now dump a lot of dummy data into the database. So if I quickly look at Neo4j, which is what we are using for graph database, it should have a bunch of dummy entities like EC2 instance, EKS clusters, backstage systems and components, and Kubernetes objects, right? And you can see none of these have any relations. They are just JSON objects, right? So the system does have a like admin UI thing, and this will run automatically, but this is just for debugging and testing purposes. So what I'll do is I will kickstart the the heuristics processing, and so I've just done that, and that will run the heuristics and go through each document and whatnot. So I'll let it run, and so it will slowly start finding relation candidates and populating the metrics for them. Let's wait for it to finish. It shouldn't take too long. Okay, and that's done. And so now I'll let the LLM evaluate these iterations. And then what we'll start seeing is, so you can see that what the prompt we are using and what metrics we're providing. They're fairly simple, like we're giving it example values. We are giving it like the count and the coverage, as well as like access. So the agent that's doing this, the LLM that's doing this, also has access to the database. So it can actually traverse and see the database and see the values and entities to make the final evaluation. So if I go back, you will see that there are certain ones that get accepted, certain ones that get rejected, and if we let it run for a little bit, in this case, most of the data is hand kind of made, so it's designed to create lots of relations. So we should see most of them being accepted by the LLM. Let's see. Yeah, so okay, so it's accepted some, rejected some. You can also accept, reject manually, just to kind of make it so that there's always a human. If something is wrong, you can always undo the relation, and that's possible. We can also see justifications of like why it was done, by the LLM, why the relation was accepted, and and all that. So if I go back to the Neo4j, if I run it again, let's say I go to, let's say I bring up a cluster, you can suddenly see that there's relations being formed. So you can see that that this deployment belongs to this cluster, this namespace belongs to this cluster, this deployment belongs to this namespace. We can also see the certificates, you know, that this ingress issues the certificate, and then this cluster issuer issues this cluster certificate, right? And the good thing is that this is all based on like what the data is there, instead of like any documentation or anything like that. So things like if you know, if you tag a resource with certain, if you have certain patterns that, hey, each backstage component relates to every deployment or something, it will pick that up, right? And so that's essentially the idea behind what we're trying to do. We also have a A2A Q&A agent, so I'll quickly run that. So this will link with the graph database and be able to answer some questions. So I can say, what do you know about? And so the system prompt is dynamic, so it should be able to figure out what's in the database and and bring like, hey, this is information I know about. So what I can do is I can ask some questions like, which ingress is related to this AWS load balancer. So hopefully, yeah, it found that, okay, this load balancer is related to this K8s ingress. Again, these two are two separate systems, right? One is AWS resource, one is Kubernetes resource, and it's able to find that link between them. I can say something like what backstage component is linked with the K8s deployment, and hopefully it should be able to find is, yeah, so entity for backstage is yeah, this backstage component with this primary key. So that's I can say, let's see, get me details of that backstage component. Let's see if I can. So that's essentially the idea, is that being able to link and relate. Yeah, it's found. It also found a bunch of relations that this deployment it has. And so the idea is that you have lots of disparate systems. You want to get the LLM to essentially relate them and be able to query using LLMs. So yeah, that concludes my demo. Any questions?
Yeah, great demo. Definitely post your questions and ask them, and we're coming up at the top of the hour. The code is available in the main repo, Shubham. We just need to link it to our docs repo, surface it, and as I think we have a story to do a bunch of tutorials, we should take basically snapshots of each of these things we're doing and do basically short tutorials like in a WebEx recording or some professional record, semi-pro recording. And if we can put all of these out there, folks can try it out. And we ran out of time to show EKS demo, which is, I think we covered it last week. I will post that recording. Thanks everyone for joining. We'll do a bit more deep dive into IDP Builder next week. Ifan, go ahead. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we'll connect internally. Take care, everyone. Bye.